What if some of the most important battles of World War II were fought without bullets, without explosions, without even real soldiers? What if an entire American army existed only in the imagination, yet convinced Nazi commanders it was real? In 1944, as Allied forces prepared to push deep into Nazi-occupied Europe, the U.S. Army unleashed one of the strangest and most effective weapons of the war. They didn't send tanks. They didn't send infantry. They sent artists. By the final year of World War II, the Allies had a brutal problem. Every major invasion cost lives, thousands of them. German defenses were strong, experienced, and watching every road, river, and coastline. Any predictable movement could end in disaster. So American planners asked a dangerous question. What if we could make the enemy move without actually fighting them? What if German commanders could be tricked into defending the wrong place at the wrong time? From that idea, a classified unit was born. One that would never appear in newspapers, never march in victory parades, and never fire its weapons in battle. They were called the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. History would remember them as the Ghost Army.
At first glance, these men didn't look like warriors at all. They were painters, sculptors, fashion designers, theater technicians, and radio engineers. Some had studied at art schools in New York and Paris, others worked in advertising or sound design. Many had never imagined they'd end up anywhere near the front lines of Europe. But the army saw something different. They understood perspective. They understood illusion. And most importantly, they understood how easily the human mind could be fooled. Their training wasn't about marksmanship. It was about performance. Because their job wasn't to fight the enemy, it was to convince the enemy they were somewhere else entirely.
Their most famous weapon looked ridiculous up close. Inflatable tanks, made of rubber, light enough to carry, folded into backpacks. But from the air, at a distance, they were nearly indistinguishable from real armored vehicles. The Ghost Army inflated entire tank battalions overnight. They placed fake artillery along roads. They positioned dummy trucks in convincing supply formations. From German reconnaissance planes, it looked like a massive force was assembling. And every morning, those fake tanks moved, repositioned to suggest planning, momentum, and intent. To the enemy, it looked like war was coming, but nothing was actually there. Visual tricks alone weren't enough. War could be heard long before it was seen, so the Ghost Army added sound. Using recordings from real armored divisions, sound engineers created audio illusions of troop movements, engines revving, metal tracks grinding, men shouting orders. Massive speakers blasted these sounds across open terrain, sometimes miles away. At night, German soldiers listened in fear. They reported hearing tanks assembling. They warned commanders of incoming attacks. Entire units prepared for battles that would never happen. But the performance wasn't over yet, because war also speaks through radios.
Radio deception was the most dangerous act of all. Every American unit had its own communication style, its rhythm, slang, habits, even mistakes. Ghost Army radio operators memorized them. They transmitted fake orders, fake requests for supplies, fake complaints. German intelligence intercepted everything. To them, it sounded authentic, so authentic that they identified specific American divisions, divisions that weren't even there. Meanwhile, Ghost Army soldiers wore fake insignia and posed as high-ranking officers in villages and cafes. Locals noticed. Rumors spread. The lie grew bigger than the men who created it. In March 1945, the Ghost Army was given one of its riskiest assignments. They were ordered to impersonate 2 full American divisions near the Rhine River. Their goal was simple and terrifying: convince the Germans that a massive river crossing was about to happen. The Ghost Army moved dangerously close to enemy lines. Their inflatable tanks sat where real ones should have been. Their radios buzzed non-stop. Their sound equipment roared through the night. German commanders took the bait. They repositioned troops, they fortified the wrong crossing points, and when the real Allied forces crossed the Rhine elsewhere, resistance was lighter and countless lives were saved.
The Ghost Army had almost no real protection. Their weapons were light, their tanks were air. If discovered, they wouldn't survive a real fight. Yet they continued their mission again and again, operating within range of enemy artillery, trusting that illusion would protect them better than steel. It usually did. By the end of the war, historians would estimate that their deceptions saved tens of thousands of lives, and then they vanished. When the war ended, the Ghost Army went home. But they didn't tell their stories. They weren't allowed to. Their missions remained classified for decades. Families never knew. No medals were given. No headlines written. It wasn't until the 1990s that the truth finally emerged. Artists had helped win a war, not with bullets, but with imagination. World War II is remembered for its firepower, its battles, and its destruction. But hidden beneath that history is a quieter truth. Sometimes the deadliest weapon isn't force, it's belief. And the Ghost Army proved that an illusion, carefully crafted, perfectly performed, could change the course of history. They didn't just fight, they fooled an army.